name is Patrick Faulkner. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a short video, hopefully short. It probably will not be short, actually. You'll know once it's done because you'll see the number. My main theory, I'm just going to give it away now. My main theory is you need to have 4 different guitars and you need to have 3 different amps. Or at least an amp that can do 3 particular different sounds. The 4 guitars are Telecaster, Hollow Body, a Strat, and a Les Paul, which are all behind me. The 5th one, there's a special entry. It's for kind of like an 80s kind of shred machine or super Strat. There's a bunch of different names for it. Something with a whammy bar, locking trem systems. Those particular kind of guitars, I feel like they're actually in a league of their own. But we'll chat more and we'll talk about why that's really just an iteration of a Stratocaster. And then the 4 main amps that you'll need, or 3 main amps, sorry. The Fender, you need something with a Fender sound, you need something with a Vox sound, and you'll need something with a Marshall sound. So as long as you got those 3 main amp sounds and those 4 guitars, maybe 5, then I think you're going to be in a really good place to come up with a huge variety of guitar sounds. And even, guitar to guitar, they also will have a very complex palette of sounds that are even available within a particular instrument. But I find that it's hard to make a Strat really sound like a Les Paul, right? There's characteristics to the way that they were designed, the bridge, the woods, the neck, the length of the scale length of the neck even. A lot of these things kind of go into what makes the guitar sound a certain way. The pickups, there's a lot of different aspects to it, and because of that, I feel like it's hard to make one particular guitar sound like another guitar. So just trying to discuss a lot of these main issues in a way that will be hopefully fun and interesting to all of you. So stay tuned, and we'll get into the video. Okay, so here we are. This is our first iteration of guitar. This is a hollow body guitar. It's hollow bodied because this chamber right here, there's no wood. There's a little piece that runs under the pickups and under the bridge that braces it more, but it's totally hollow. I can talk into it and you can hear it on the other side because it's totally empty. They do make a semi-hollow body. Gibson's really famous one is an ES335 semi-hollow body. I prefer the sound of a full hollow body instrument. Basically, this instrument, the concept of this is it's an acoustic guitar that they wanted to make louder. Charlie Christian was really the first person to do this, at least notably get Gibson to make him a guitar. I think it was the ES170. For jazz. He was playing big band jazz and he wanted to be heard. And so he just got one pickup on the neck. Eventually, Gibson realized this isn't actually a Gibson guitar, if you can see it. This is an Ibanez, what is that model? EF75. So fancy. But that doesn't really matter. The point is, the construction, the materials, everything that it is, they're all, in a lot of ways, they're very similar to, true vintage instruments, and also very true to true vintage instruments. And you got to watch out for this. Is the neck joint breaks. The neck is made out of mahogany. It's not as stable as something like maple, and they tend to snap. A lot of vintage Les Pauls and hollow body guitars, SGs, they all have that. My friend tentatively calls it the smiley face nod. This is just bad. I bought it from a friend. I was trying to help him out so he could buy a guitar for his sister. So I gave him a decent amount of money for it to help buy the guitar, and it sounds really good. The scale length is a little bit shorter than some guitars. It's 24 3/4, which is traditional for this type of guitar. It was Um, Coming from like an acoustic, a lot of acoustic guitars, especially with this body shape. The Martin Triple O, not the OM, but the Martin Triple O is the same body shape and the same neck length. It's basically taking that guitar and then putting pickups on it. So, what else? Body's made out of maple, as opposed to acoustic guitars, which is made out of spruce and either a mahogany or a rosewood, depending on what you get. So it's way stronger. I would not hit this guitar with something, but I would be more comfortable dropping this guitar than I would my Martin. My Martin would crack and be destroyed. This would keep going. And that's one of the upsides, I think, to spending a little bit less on your instruments if you're not that familiar with it, or you're not that familiar with the sound that you're going to get from it. This particular guitar runs for about $300, $400, 400 new, 300 used. So yeah, let me just play it for a minute, and you can kind of get an idea. I'm playing through an amp simulator on my computer right now. Not actually running through a real amp. I just thought it would be a little bit easier for me to do this. All the settings will be exactly the same for all the guitars, so that way you can get a pretty good reference. It's just kind of a deep... if you're familiar with Chet Atkins, he was a guitar player that would play hollow body guitar, do a lot of like different fingerstyle kind of things. I don't play Chet Atkins style guitar. I wish I did. He's a master. But he was a famous guitar player for doing it. And then if I flip over to that bridge pickup, you notice I get kind of a bluesy kind of a tone. So using the switch down here, going from the neck, which was a nice warm kind of subtle jazz tone. I do roll my tone knob back about halfway, by the way. It's nice and subtle. Just warm, inviting. Go over to the bridge. It's kind of a little barky even. You lose a lot of the low end in the pickup. That's partially physics. I mean, the pickup is physically closer to the strings and closer to the bridge. And as the sound gets closer to the bridge, you get a more brittle kind of a sound. Right? It's picking up the sound here as opposed to here. So because of that, I mean, if you really want to get technical, there's actually reasons for it. It's picking up the harmonics of the instrument in a different place, so that's why you get a different sound. I don't really want to go there. I just want to tell you that when you go to the bridge, it gets brighter. When you go to the neck, it gets softer. One nice thing about this guitar and guitars like this, including the Les Paul, they have humbuckers, which get rid of some of the 60 cycle hum that you'll get. They also come with 2 volume knobs and 2 tone knobs. So I can adjust the sound of one pickup to be one way and the sound of another pickup to be a different way. Volume wise too, I can adjust the volume if I want my neck pickup to be much warmer and much quieter. And then I want my bridge to be louder and brighter. It's really easy to do that. On other guitars, you either have to wire them differently or you have to adjust the height of the pickups. All of these things are good options, but not necessarily as easy as this, where I can do this while I'm playing the instrument. There's also the sound of both pickups together, which is kind of a neat sound. Maybe not as dark. It's got a little bit more brightness to it, but not as brittle as that one. It's somewhere in between, right? Nice. So let me get the next one. So next up is my tuner. My Gibson Les Paul. This is a studio model. So this was Gibson's attempt in the 90s to make a more affordable instrument for more people. So yeah, it's pretty good. Some notable differences between this guitar and the one I just did. The neck material is actually ebony, which would only really be possible on their custom guitars. In the 50s and 60s, they started doing the custom line, and those ones were like their really high end ones. And so this was Gibson's most affordable option to get a ebony fretboard with mahogany body, mahogany neck, 2 pickups, 4 knobs. You know, it's a true Gibson guitar. And then we also have the Tune-o-matic bridge, which was also on the hollow body guitar. But the hollow body one, if you remember it, the bridge goes all the way down here, right? So it had this really long set of strings that would kind of extend out, and the break angle was much lower than this one. This one's actually very steep comparatively. What else? The same scale length of neck. It's a 24 3/4 scale length. Also has humbuckers, has the 4 knobs, just like the other guitar. But this guitar, one other big difference between this guitar and that guitar, it's a solid body guitar. Solid pieces of wood, all glued together. The neck, again, is a mahogany neck with ebony on top. The body, the top of the body is still maple, actually, which is similar to the hollow body guitar. But the back of the guitar is all mahogany. So this is a beast of a guitar to hold. Some of them will get upwards of 10 pounds. And that is extremely heavy when you're standing for 3 hours, maybe playing or practicing with your friends, jamming or recording. That is extremely heavy. I think this one's about 9. It's been a while. I honestly don't even know if I've ever weighed it. But just feeling it, this is easily the heaviest guitar I own. Not chambered at all. They do make chambered bodies where they drill out holes and then cover it up. So it makes it a lot lighter. It helps. It maintains most of the tone. I feel like it's still going to sound like a Les Paul. The one thing to note, and I'm on the neck pickup, by the way, coming from that last guitar to this guitar, It doesn't have that sweet kind of like. It doesn't have that sweet kind of jazz tone to it, does it? Maybe a little bit. I rolled my tone knob back and I'm playing lighter. If I roll my volume down a little bit, I can get that kind of warm, buttery jazz tone. And a lot of the construction of this guitar is the same. So it should sound fairly similar, right? This particular guitar has a more bass to it. And I feel like that's part of the construction. It's not a hollow body guitar. It's a solid body guitar, so it rings and it vibrates as one piece. And I feel like it maintains some of that extra low end. And that I think is also part of the ebony. Ebony tends to have a slightly darker kind of a tone. I shouldn't say darker. I should say it maintains more of its low frequencies because it still has all the high content. But these particular pickups are wired to have more volume, to have more gain, is what we call it. So you've noticed even on the neck pickup, I'm getting a lot more distortion. I don't really have to go to the bridge, or if I do, it's a lot more gain. Now remember, this is still that Fender type clean tone. I'm not using like a high gain amp or pedal or none of that fancy schmancy stuff right now. This is just about getting the sound from the guitar itself. So, anything else? I don't think so. Maybe the middle sound. Yeah, it's kind of that Eagles kind of a sound, huh? Which makes sense. Everybody in the 70s was using Les Pauls. Very few people were really using Strats. Funk guys were using Strats. Telecasters, it was all just like twangy country players. And this could kind of do it. Especially in the middle position or maybe the bridge. I still feel like it just ends up sounding like classic rock. Anyways. Okay. I'm back with my next guitar. This one is a Fender Telecaster. It says Squire on it right here. Yeah, this is not your most expensive guitar. I was playing Squires for a long time because I just wanted to make the point, like, just because they're cheap doesn't mean they're bad. And I also wanted to see how far can you mod a guitar and get it to sound, as good as possible. So I ended up swapping the neck. This is not actually the neck that this guitar came with. This is the Telecaster Custom, which is a different guitar. The body is an all-pine body, which is what Leo used initially when he first designed the Telecaster, which was a broadcaster. You see the guitar comes with 2 pickups. The second pickup was added later. They called it the jazz pickup because they wanted it to kind of sound like a hollow body guitar. It's got kind of a nice deep, warm tone. I feel like calling it that, and I am rolling the tone knob back a little bit. You'll notice it only has 2 knobs, 1 volume, 1 tone, and then a 3-way selector. So all the other guitars we had 2 volumes, 2 tones, and a 3-way selector. So this one has significantly less electronics. So one of the things that I did to help make it a little more versatile on this particular guitar was I added in a push-pull pot, and so it actually will pull out the circuit. So if you're on your neck pickup with the pot in, you can make it sound really, really warm. And then if I wanted to, just by pulling up on the knob, I get a really bright sound, and it's actually brighter than the guitar is with the tone knob rolled all the way up. It's actually a little bit brighter because we're taking the load, if you're into electronics, the load of this pot, we're pulling it out of the circuit completely. So it's reducing the amount of capacitance or resistance, because this is a variable resistor or potentiometer or pot. It's reducing the resistance that's on the pickups themselves, and thus making the sound louder and brighter. And I found that particularly useful if I was trying to do like a lead boost, so I can have a slightly less bright sound, and then when I would switch over, I can pull out that pot and then get a brighter sound. So the bridge pickup, this is the money maker for this guitar. This guitar was really designed around that, bridge pickup. And actually, most people don't know this, but Jimmy Page recorded all his early Led Zeppelin tunes not on a Les Paul, on a Telecaster. But he did it on a Supro amp, which not a lot of people had. Which I currently don't have either. But so this is a very different sounding guitar. The neck, like I said, does sound pretty warm, like a jazz pickup. But it's still brighter, right? Part of that is the construction of the guitar. The neck, you'll see it's maple. This is a hard maple. Basically, if you take this neck off and you started running around, you could do some damage. Let me just put it like that. Let me not promote violence. But yes, the wood is like a baseball bat. Even you could play cricket with it, maybe, because it's flat. For all my British friends. It's pretty comfortable. It's not maybe as comfortable as the hollow body is, but it's not as awkward as the Les Paul. The Les Paul has so much meat on the back end of it. It like feels like it wants to fall off. This guitar is much more balanced than that. Although the edge right here, this edge is not comfortable. It ends up digging into my arm. So it's still not the most comfortable playing guitar. It's very bright. It's very bright. I mean, just for me here. I mean, this is much louder than the hollow body was. And the hollow body has humbuckers, which are traditionally louder sounding pickups. Not really. One other thing. The bridge saddles. I had these changed out. These were originally like pop metal, garbage metal pickup or bridge saddles. You'll see it. It's like they call it the ashtray because it kind of looks like an ashtray from the 50s. It used to actually come with a cover, so it would help kind of cancel some of the hum that they would get from that bridge pickup. I changed these out to brass. That is definitely one of the tonal characteristics of this particular guitar. Telecasters have brass bridge pieces, and they should, because it's part of that bright sound. The brass is more punchy. It's more bright. It's not. It's more like I'm gonna punch you in the face kind of a tone. It's not like it's not subtle. Let's put it that way. Somewhere around like 800 or 900 hertz would be a more subtle sound. The Les Paul, to me, it seems like its hump is a little bit lower, like maybe around 600. Like that's kind of its emphasis. The Tele is like ear piercing sometimes. And like I said, I'm not adjusting any of the tone to these explanations. So this is the same amp sound that you're going to get for all these guitars. And it's like, wow, that's really bright. And that's kind of the deal. When I was playing rock, kind of more of a shred metal-y type sound, the thing I liked about the Telecaster was it was so bright, it would cut through. So I could put it into a dirty Marshall amp and still get all the brightness and all the high end that I really felt like I would lose using a humbucking guitar, you know, Les Paul specifically. Anyways, let's try the last one, which is the Stratocaster. Okay, so we've made it. First kind of general things about it. Scale length is the same as the Telecaster. I don't know if I explained that actually. It's 25.5. It does have a maple neck, but the top you can see is actually rosewood. This became really popular in the 60s. The Telecaster has pretty much stayed with the maple neck, maple top, you know, and these ones, the Stratocasters in the 60s started getting rosewood. I think the last one was the 58 Strat. I think that's the last one with all maple. Until the 90s, once CBS sold it back to kind of original Fender workers, and it became its own thing, not part of CBS anymore. So what about it? Okay, so this is like Leo Fender's update, or this is Leo Fender's 2.0. Where the hollow body going to the Les Paul was kind of like Gibson's 1.0, 2.0. This is Fender's 2.0 Stratocaster, Telecaster. So he addressed some of the issues, like the Telecaster had 2 pickups. This one now has 3. So that's one more than Gibson had, right? It also has 3 knobs. So it has 2 tone knobs, which traditionally would have actually adjusted these 2. I've rewired this pickup system to actually adjust the bridge, and then this tone knob adjusts the neck and the middle together. And it got an updated switch in the 80s, I believe. From a 3-way switch, which Leo said, why do they need a 5-way switch? They've already had 3. That's too many. Or that's so many. It actually has a 5-way switch, which is not traditional. This traditional Strat would have had a 3-way switch. And some guys found out... Ooh, that's bright. Some guys found out by kind of getting it stuck in between, they can get this kind of in-between sound. Which was a different sound. It's different than you get from a Telecaster. It's different than you get from one of the standard stock pickups. These particular pickups are actually Squier pickups. They're Seymour Duncan designed Alnico 2s, I believe. So they were made in China, but when I put this guitar together, none of this stuff was here. All the pickups were changed, the pots were changed, the bridge was changed, the neck was changed. So, that's the one really nice thing about these guitars. You can make them your own. These pickups are a little lower output, maybe. But that bridge pickup compresses in a different way than the Telecaster bridge pickup does. The Telecaster pickup, it's really just like, that's so bright. This one's also bright, but it seems to compress in a slightly different way where it's still more appealing. And I generally don't leave these tone knobs up all the way. At least not on this guitar. On this particular guitar, I feel like it's already pretty bright. So I'll adjust my tone knobs. What are we trying to do here? So that's a really famous kind of a tone. I mean, you're going to get a lot of tone, a lot of sound out of that one. It's a Strat into a clean Fender amp. Even if I go into the bridge pickup, it's still a Strat into a clean Fender amp. It doesn't really distort in the way that the Les Paul did, if you remember that. That was significantly crunchy. Or even the way the Hollow Body did was less, but still more crunchy than this. This still maintains kind of its clean tone sound. Doesn't bark. So I think this guitar, which makes sense, the Telecaster and the Stratocaster both have single coil pickups. There's no humbucking mechanism in it. I didn't show you this in the Tele, but let me show you in the Strat. I use a noise gate when I record these. Some people are against noise gates. They think they're evil. I'm always kind of question that. I mean, what did they do to you? But now, when I break, when I let go of the strings, you still hear that hum. That 60 cycle hum. And it's really partially the computer and the lights, and there's a little bit, and then there's just some noise kind of from the signal chain. Maybe the cable's running too close to the power supply, like the Strat. The funk sound, it's basically a clean Fender amp. We would need a compressor for this to really get super funky. But that's kind of a funk tone. Although my teacher told me you can't play funk with reverb. And he's right. Can't play funk with reverb. What else? Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing. That's That's a middle position Strat tone through a clean amp. So I think you guys are starting to see like the tones are really based around the guitar you're using, right? And then also the amp. There, notice how I haven't really done any heavy rock sounds. I haven't done any real big um, blues sounds. You would really need a slightly different tone. Like I said, I only used a clean Fender amp sound. I didn't use any like dirty Fender amp sounds to get a good. Um, ah, okay. So Stratocaster. I didn't show you this, and I probably should have. Um, the back. The back of the Stratocaster has something real special in it. The trem block. So this was really the first guitar to add this in as a feature. We're using a whammy bar. That's what we call it. Tremolo bar, which doesn't make sense either. Um, you can change the pitch. Now, when I set up my Strats, I actually set it up purposefully. So if you can see that. Ding. It's all the way smashed against the body. There's no give. There's no movement. I don't use it at all. That's just a preference of mine. I don't generally find the tuning stability as good as I want it to be. I watched a bunch of videos about it. I just kind of gave up trying to make it work. Instead, what I ended up doing was buying one with a locking system on it. So they lock the nut here. Usually it's the issue with the strings binding or getting stuck somewhere between here and here. Or maybe the bridge didn't go back to its perfect position. So this particular guitar, it's an Ibanez SA, I think it's a 420. Never mind. The neck is maple. You see that there? Just like a Strat. It's covered with rosewood, very similar to Strat. The length is 25 and a half. Same as a Strat, which is why we call it a Super Strat. Now, the body, this particular one, it's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit thinner than a standard Strat body. Let me show it to you. The outline, the profile is pretty much the same, right? Got that horn, little horn, big cutaways. This one, it's a little bit harder for me to reach. My finger tends to fall around the 19th fret. I can reach the 22nd. It's just a little bit more of a stretch. This one, I can get all the way up to the 24th fret. That's right. A lot of these Super Strats end up getting 24 frets. So they carve out more wood here to make it much easier to reach. Which is why a lot of guitar players kind of in the 80s and shreddy metalhead guys will get guitars with 24 frets. Like this Ibanez SA420. What else? The body. This body is actually mahogany, which is more similar to what you would find on a Les Paul. And that's what they kind of started doing with these, is they would take, oh, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we take this body wood that's not traditional to a Strat and we put it on this guitar? What happens then? What kind of a sound do we get? And I actually think this guitar sounds very close to, I don't even want to say it, a Les Paul. The humbuckers, because that's also similar to a Les Paul. The mahogany body. There are even some Les Pauls with maple necks because of that. The headstock would break off. The headstock would break off right about here. And so they, for a while in the 70s, they actually used maple. So it's not that uncommon to see. The biggest difference, though, and the reason that people buy these guitars is the trem system, the locking trem system. So it locks up here, and the strings actually get locked in place with the Allen key. And this particular trem system is actually has an extra set of springs on it. And so when I push down on the whammy bar, it goes up. And when I pull up on the whammy bar, it goes up. This is a free floating trem. There's no wood underneath. And so what that does is it allows me to get like big dive bombs. You can see it here. Actually, did a little modification in there. You can see that little blue. little blue tape, because the trem block, when I would lift up that sound, I was trying to deaden that sound a little bit. Especially when it's on. It's really loud. The down one's not so bad, but the up one's pretty bad. And those are really the main features of a Super Strat. One other thing, which is pretty low on the list, but it actually has a tilt back head. The Fender has a flat head, and I feel like it has a different tone because of that. I feel like the tilt back necks, they tend to have a little less tone. Personally, I feel like there's something lost in the tilt back, but that's all right. Here's what it sounds like. This is high gain. It's maybe not quite as pleasing as the hollow body. But it's also a lot more versatile. This particular guitar has a lot of different tones options. So going from the neck pickup, when I go to the second position, it's the neck in parallel. So rather than series, where a series is, for all the people that don't really know much about electronics, the signal goes into the first pickup, and then it goes out, and then into the second pickup, and then goes through all the coils and then out. Parallel, it goes through the two different single coils together at the same time. So you get a slightly different sound. It's a little bit brighter. It's not quite single coil sounding. It's maybe more so than the regular neck pickup. I mean, that's a pretty beefy dark tone. And personally very similar to what I get from my Les Paul. But it's not a Les Paul. And I think that's where you kind of run into issues trying to get one guitar to do everything. That's the middle position. That's going to be both your... It should be both of these pickups together, but it almost sounds like these two outer single coils. Because it's not beefy enough. This one is going to be... kind of an in-between sound, like a in-between Strat single coil. Maybe more like a Telecaster. I mess with the wiring. But it definitely has more of a Tele kind of a... Not quite, huh? And then when I get to that bridge pickup, it's gonna growl. Almost no matter what I do. Just because the pickup is so hot. Doesn't really matter what you do with that. Usually the first thing I do when I'm trying to record is I find the sound that I want. I find the guitar I want, I find the amp I want, and then I kind of go from there. Everything kind of starts from that thing. I find a sound that inspires me, and and then I work my way down. A lot of people could do it a different way, but that's the way I prefer to do it. I find the thing I like, and then I just stick with it. So yeah.